8-year-old Emma Martinez walked through the quiet suburban neighborhood with her golden retriever Max, on their usual evening routine. The sun was setting behind the oak trees that lined Maple Street, casting long shadows across the sidewalk. Emma's mother had sent her to walk Max before dinner, a responsibility the young girl took seriously every day after school. Max suddenly stopped walking and began sniffing the air intensely. His tail, which had been wagging moments before, now stood still as his nose worked overtime. Emma tugged gently on his leash, but the dog refused to move forward. Instead, Max turned toward the small park across the street and began pulling Emma in that direction. The neighborhood park was usually empty at this time of evening. Most families were inside preparing dinner or helping children with homework. Emma had walked past this park hundreds of times, but tonight something felt different. Max's behavior was unusual. He was normally obedient and followed their regular walking route without any problems. As they crossed the street, Emma noticed a police car parked near the playground equipment. Officer David Chen sat on a bench near the swings, but something about his posture seemed wrong. He was leaning forward with his head in his hands, and his police radio lay silent beside him. Emma had seen Officer Chen many times before. He often visited their elementary school to talk to students about safety. Max began whimpering and pulling harder toward the bench where Officer Chen sat. The dog's instincts were telling him something that Emma couldn't understand yet. She had never seen Max act this way before. Usually he was calm and friendly around police officers, often approaching them for pets when they visited the school. Emma noticed that Officer Chen's patrol car door was open, and his water bottle sat on the ground beside the bench. Papers were scattered around his feet as if he had dropped them suddenly. The officer's face looked pale even in the dim evening light, and beads of sweat covered his forehead despite the cool autumn air. The young girl felt a knot forming in her stomach. Something was definitely wrong with Officer Chen, but she didn't know what to do. Her parents had always taught her to trust police officers and to ask them for help when she needed it. But what should she do when the police officer himself seemed to need help? Max continued to whine and pull toward Officer Chen. The dog's golden fur stood on end and his ears were pinned back against his head. Emma had never seen her usually cheerful pet so agitated and concerned. Max kept looking back at Emma, then toward the officer as if trying to communicate something urgent that only he could sense. Emma took a deep breath and decided to approach the bench. Her heart was beating fast, but she knew she couldn't just walk away when someone might need help. As they got closer, she could see that Officer Chen was breathing heavily and seemed to be struggling to stay upright on the bench. The papers scattered on the ground appeared to be incident reports, and Officer Chen's pen lay beside his fallen water bottle. Emma realized that he had been working when whatever happened to him began. The scene looked like he had suddenly become ill while writing his reports at the end of his shift. Max's behavior became even more intense as they approached. The dog began barking softly, not in an aggressive way, but in the special bark he used when he wanted Emma's attention for something important. It was the same sound he made when he needed to go outside urgently, or when strangers approached their house at night. Emma gathered her courage and called out softly, "Officer Chen? Are you okay?" Her voice sounded small in the quiet park, but she knew she had to try to help somehow. Max sat down beside her but continued to watch the officer with intense focus, his tail still motionless with concern. Officer Chen lifted his head slowly when he heard Emma's voice. His eyes were glassy and unfocused, and when he tried to speak, his words came out slurred and difficult to understand. Emma could see that he was trying to reach for his radio, but his hand was shaking too much to grab it properly. The sight frightened the young girl, but Max's presence beside her gave her courage to stay and help. "I don't feel good," Officer Chen managed to whisper. "Something's wrong with me. I was drinking my water and eating my lunch, and then everything started spinning." His voice was weak, and he seemed to be having trouble forming complete sentences. Emma noticed that his lunch container was open on the bench beside him, with half a sandwich still inside. Max began acting even more strangely. The golden retriever approached Officer Chen's water bottle on the ground and began sniffing it intensely. Then he backed away quickly and started barking in a way Emma had never heard before. It was an urgent warning bark that made the hair on Emma's arms stand up. The dog looked back at Emma and then at the water bottle, repeating this pattern several times. Emma's mind raced as she tried to understand what was happening. She had learned about poisoning in a health class at school, where their teacher had explained how dangerous substances could make people very sick very quickly. Max's behavior around the water bottle was setting off alarm bells in her head. Dogs had amazing senses of smell and could detect things that humans couldn't. "Officer Chen, I think something might be wrong with your water," Emma said, surprised by how steady her own voice sounded. She pulled out her cell phone, a basic model. Her parents had given her for emergencies exactly like this one. Her hands were shaking as she dialed 911, hoping she was doing the right thing. The emergency operator answered quickly. 911, what's your emergency? Emma took a deep breath and explained the situation as clearly as she could. "There's a police officer in the park on Maple Street who's very sick. My dog is acting weird about his water bottle. I think someone might have put something bad in it." While Emma spoke to the emergency operator, Max continued his protective behavior. The dog positioned himself between Emma and the water bottle, as if guarding her from potential danger. Then he did something that amazed Emma. He began pawing at Officer Chen's radio, somehow managing to turn it on. The radio crackled to life with police chatter from other officers around the city. Officer Chen tried to grab his radio to call for backup, but his coordination was getting worse by the minute. Emma could see that his condition was deteriorating rapidly. His breathing was becoming more labored, and his skin was taking on a grayish color that scared her. She knew they needed help immediately. "The ambulance is on the way," the 911 operator told Emma. "Stay on the line with me and don't touch anything around the officer except his radio. You're doing great, honey. Keep talking to the officer and try to keep him awake." Emma sat down on the bench next to Officer Chen, being careful not to touch his food or water. Max lay down at her feet, continuing to watch the water bottle with intense focus. "Officer Chen, help is coming," she told him gently. "My name is Emma, and this is my dog Max. We're going to stay with you until the ambulance gets here." The officer managed a weak smile. "Thank you, Emma," he whispered. "You and Max might have saved my life." Even in his weakened state, he seemed to understand that something had been wrong with his drink, and that the young girl and her dog had discovered the emergency in time. Max suddenly stood up and began barking toward the street. Emma looked up to see flashing lights approaching. The ambulance and additional police cars were arriving. The dog's warning had been perfectly timed, alerting Emma that help was almost there. As the emergency vehicles pulled into the park, Emma felt a wave of relief wash over her. The paramedics quickly took over, checking Officer Chen's vital signs and asking Emma questions about what she had observed. One of the paramedics praised her quick thinking in calling 911 and not touching the potentially contaminated items. Max stayed close to Emma's side throughout the commotion, his protective instincts still on high alert as strangers worked around his young owner. Detective Sarah Williams arrived at the scene just as the paramedics were loading Officer Chen into the ambulance. Emma watched as the detective carefully collected Officer Chen's water bottle, lunch container, and other items as evidence. She wore plastic gloves and used special tools to avoid contaminating anything that might help solve the case. "You did an excellent job calling for help," Detective Williams told Emma after introducing herself. "Can you tell me exactly what you and Max noticed when you first saw Officer Chen?" The detective knelt down to Emma's level and spoke in a gentle voice that made the young girl feel comfortable sharing her observations. Emma explained everything she remembered. How Max had stopped during their walk, how he had pulled her toward the park, and especially how strangely he had behaved around the water bottle. Max seemed to understand that he was being discussed and wagged his tail slightly when Detective Williams praised his alertness. "Dogs have incredible senses," Detective Williams explained to Emma. "Max probably smelled something in that water bottle that didn't belong there. His nose is thousands of times more sensitive than ours." She reached out to pet Max gently, and the golden retriever accepted her attention while remaining alert to his surroundings. At the hospital, doctors worked quickly to treat Officer Chen. Blood tests revealed that he had indeed been poisoned with a dangerous substance that could have been fatal if he hadn't received medical attention quickly. The emergency room physician told Detective Williams that Emma and Max's quick response had likely saved the officer's life. Back at the police station, investigators began analyzing the evidence. The water bottle tested positive for a toxic substance that had been carefully mixed to be nearly undetectable by taste or smell. However, Max's sensitive nose had picked up the chemical signature that humans couldn't detect. The discovery confirmed that this had been a deliberate attempt to harm Officer Chen. Detective Williams reviewed Officer Chen's recent cases to identify potential suspects. She discovered that he had been working on a case involving a local drug dealer who had made threats against police officers. The investigation focused on people who had access to Officer Chen's patrol car and could have tampered with his water bottle during his shift. Security cameras from nearby businesses provided crucial evidence. The footage showed a suspicious figure approaching Officer Chen's patrol car while he was inside a convenience store buying lunch. The person appeared to tamper with something in the vehicle before quickly walking away. The timestamp matched the period just before Officer Chen began feeling ill. Emma's parents arrived at the police station after Detective Williams called them to explain the situation. They were proud of their daughter's brave actions, but also concerned about the danger she had encountered. Emma's mother hugged her tightly and praised Max for being such a good protector. "I want to make sure Emma receives proper recognition for her quick thinking," Detective Williams told Emma's parents. Without her willingness to help and Max's alert behavior, this situation could have ended very differently. The detective explained that the police department wanted to honor both Emma and Max for their heroic actions. The investigation continued throughout the night. Using the security footage and other evidence, police were able to identify the suspect who had poisoned Officer Chen's water. The person was arrested at their home just before dawn, and additional evidence was found linking them to the crime. The quick resolution of the case was directly attributed to Emma and Max's early discovery of the emergency. Officer Chen's condition improved steadily at the hospital. The doctors said that because the poisoning had been discovered and treated so quickly, he would make a full recovery without any lasting effects. He kept asking the nurses about the young girl and her dog who had saved his life, eager to thank them properly once he was feeling better. Detective Williams called Emma's family with updates throughout the investigation. She wanted them to know how important their contribution had been, and that the suspect was now in custody. "Emma and Max are true heroes," she told Emma's parents. "Their actions not only saved Officer Chen's life, but also helped us catch a dangerous criminal who might have hurt other officers." The local news stations began calling the police department asking about the story. Word was spreading quickly about the 8-year-old girl and her dog who had discovered a police officer being poisoned and saved his life. Detective Williams worked with Emma's parents to decide how much publicity they wanted, always prioritizing the family's safety and privacy above media attention. 3 days after the incident, Officer Chen was released from the hospital and immediately asked to visit Emma and Max. He arrived at their home with a large bouquet of flowers for Emma's mother and a special dog toy for Max. Despite still feeling weak, he insisted on personally thanking the heroes who had saved his life. "I owe you my life," Officer Chen told Emma as he knelt down to her level in the family's living room. "If you and Max hadn't found me when you did, the doctors said I might not have survived." His eyes filled with tears as he spoke, and Emma could see how grateful he truly was for their help. Max approached Officer Chen cautiously at first, remembering the distressing scene from the park. But when the officer extended his hand for the dog to sniff, Max's tail began wagging enthusiastically. It was as if the intelligent dog understood that Officer Chen was now safe and healthy, no longer in the danger they had discovered together. Emma's school principal called her parents to ask if Emma could share her story with her classmates during a special assembly. The principal wanted to use Emma's experience as a teaching moment about helping others and trusting their instincts when something seems wrong. Emma felt nervous about speaking in front of the whole school, but her parents encouraged her to share her important story. The police department announced that they wanted to hold a special ceremony to honor Emma and Max for their heroic actions. Police Chief Martinez explained that civilian recognition awards were rarely given to children, but Emma's quick thinking and brave response had earned her this special honor. Max would receive the department's first-ever K-9 Civilian Service Award. Local newspaper reporters interviewed Emma and her family about the experience. Emma explained how Max's unusual behavior had alerted her that something was wrong, and how her parents' teachings about helping others had given her the courage to approach Officer Chen The newspaper planned to feature their story on the front page with the headline "Young Hero and Her Dog Save Officers' Life," and the ceremony was scheduled for the following week at City Hall, with the mayor and police chief presenting the awards. Emma would receive a civilian hero medal, while Max would get a special collar with a service badge attached. The police department also announced that they would be implementing new safety protocols for officers based on lessons learned from the poisoning incident. Emma's teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, used the opportunity to teach her class about the importance of trusting their instincts and helping others in need. She praised Emma for remembering her emergency training and for having the courage to call 911 when she recognized a dangerous situation. The lesson inspired other students to think about how they could help in their own community. Officer Chen worked with Detective Williams to create a special safety presentation for Emma's school. They wanted to teach children how to recognize emergencies and respond appropriately, using Emma's experience as a positive example. The presentation would emphasize that even young people could make a difference when they stayed alert and cared about others. Max became something of a celebrity at the local veterinarian's office when Emma brought him for his regular checkup. Dr. Peterson had heard about Max's heroic nose work and praised his natural instincts for detecting danger. She explained to Emma that some dogs were specially trained to detect drugs or explosives, but Max had used his natural abilities to save a life. Emma's parents were contacted by a national television morning show that wanted to feature their story. The producers were impressed by Emma's maturity and Max's intelligence, and they thought their story would inspire viewers across the country. Emma's family carefully considered the opportunity, weighing the potential positive impact against their desire for privacy. The police department received dozens of letters from community members praising Emma and Max for their heroic actions. Many people shared their own stories of times when children or pets had helped them in emergencies, creating a wave of positive community spirit. Officer Chen read every letter and planned to share the most meaningful ones with Emma at the upcoming ceremony. Detective Williams completed her investigation and confirmed that the suspect had been acting alone in targeting Officer Chen. The case was closed successfully, and the detective credited Emma and Max's discovery as the key factor in solving the crime quickly and preventing potential harm to other officers. Emma's courage and Max's instincts had not only saved Officer Chen's life but had also prevented a dangerous criminal from potentially harming other police officers. Their actions demonstrated how ordinary citizens, even young ones, could make extraordinary differences in their communities when they stayed alert and cared about others' safety. The awards ceremony at City Hall was attended by hundreds of community members who came to honor Emma and Max. The mayor presented Emma with a beautiful medal engraved with the words "Community Hero for Courage" and "Quick Thinking." Max received his special collar and service badge, which he wore proudly as the audience applauded enthusiastically for both heroes. Officer Chen spoke at the ceremony, his voice strong and clear as he addressed the crowd. "Emma and Max didn't just save my life," he said. "They reminded all of us that heroes come in all ages and sizes." This young girl's willingness to help a stranger, combined with her dog's incredible instincts, shows the very best of our community spirit. Emma's speech was simple but heartfelt. She thanked everyone for the honor and emphasized that she had only done what felt right in the moment. "Max and I were just walking like we do every day," she said. "When we saw someone who needed help, we couldn't just walk away. My parents taught me to always try to help others when I can." The story of Emma and Max spread beyond their local community. National news networks picked up the story, and social media posts about their heroic actions reached millions of people around the world. Comments poured in from families sharing their own stories of children and pets who had helped in emergencies, creating a movement of inspiration and community awareness. 6 months after the incident, Officer Chen returned to full duty with a renewed appreciation for his work and community. He made it a point to visit Emma's school regularly, continuing their safety presentations and encouraging students to stay alert and help others. His partnership with Emma had created an ongoing educational program that benefited hundreds of children. Emma and Max continued their evening walks through the neighborhood, but now they were recognized as local celebrities. Neighbors would wave and thank them for their service to the community. Officer Chen often joined them on their walks when his patrol schedule allowed, creating a special bond between the three heroes. The police department implemented new safety protocols based on lessons learned from Officer Chen's poisoning. Officers now worked in pairs during certain high-risk periods, and additional security measures were put in place to protect their food and water supplies. Emma and Max's discovery had led to improvements that would protect many other officers in the future. Max received additional training from a local canine specialist who was impressed by his natural detection abilities. While he remained Emma's beloved family pet, he also learned new skills that could help him assist in future emergency situations. The training sessions became a fun activity that Emma and Max enjoyed together. Emma's school started a community helper program inspired by her actions. Students learned about different ways they could help their neighbors and community, from simple acts of kindness to emergency response. Emma served as a student mentor for the program, sharing her experience and encouraging other children to stay alert and caring. The story of Emma and Max was featured in several children's books about real-life heroes. Emma enjoyed reading these books and seeing how their experience inspired fictional stories about other young heroes and their animal companions. She hoped their story would encourage other children to be brave and helpful when they encountered people in need. 1 year after the incident, Officer Chen organized a reunion celebration with Emma, Max, and their family. They returned to the park where everything had started, but this time for a happy picnic instead of an emergency. The park had been improved with new lighting and security features, partly inspired by the events that had taken place there. Emma grew up knowing that she had made a real difference in someone's life. The experience taught her valuable lessons about courage, compassion, and the importance of trusting her instincts. As she got older, she continued to volunteer in her community and eventually pursued a career in emergency medicine, inspired by her childhood experience of helping save a life. Max lived a long and happy life as the family's beloved pet and neighborhood hero. He never again encountered a situation quite like Officer Chen's emergency, but his alert and protective nature continued to serve his family well throughout his life. The special collar and badge he received remained his most treasured possessions, worn proudly during community events and parades. The friendship between Emma, Max, and Officer Chen lasted for many years. They became an example of how unexpected circumstances could bring people together and create lasting bonds. Their story continued to inspire others to stay alert, trust their instincts, and always be ready to help someone in need, proving that heroes truly come in all ages and sizes.